after whatever you say.
Well, I don't have any questions, but anyone want to do it.
Good afternoon and welcome. Well, maybe I'll back up a little bit. It's nice to have you all here today at the presentation of the Robert A. and Virginia Heinlein Prize Trust Award to Elon Musk. I was a reader of Robert Heinlein's juvenile books as a child and was inspired by them, as were many others who went on to become astronauts and, yes, cosmonauts. His books are translated into many languages. I've in my travels in Russia and my business there, run across any number of cosmonauts who were Robert Heinlein readers. To my initial surprise, it no longer surprises me. Heinlein books are translated into 32 languages. So it was not just people who went on to become astronauts and engineers, astrophysicists, and other workers in aerospace, but other people were inspired by Robert Heinlein, who went on to have everyday jobs that are more common, professionals and engineers in other areas, and simply aficionados. And these people in Robert Heinlein's later career came to be known as Heinlein's children. And there are many of those here today. I was particularly pleased to learn after Elon Musk had already been declared the winner of the Heinlein Award that he too was one of Heinlein's children, and he'll probably have something to say about that himself, but I know that the room is full of them today, and so I would like to propose first a toast to Heinlein's children, who are carrying on the work now and to whom the burden falls. Robert Heinlein is known to a number of people only as a science fiction writer. How different he's perceived by the world at large in aerospace was made clear to me the day that I was watching the television coverage of the moon landing, and Walter Cronkite is sitting there interviewing a science fiction author. What's this about? Well, Robert Heinlein was a futurist. He was far more than a science fiction writer. He affected the lives of many people, including those here today and those who have gone before in the field of aerospace. So the second toast that I will propose is to Robert A. Heinlein and Virginia, who saw to it that his legacy was preserved and the work that they laid the groundwork for that has now fallen to those present. So Robert and Virginia Heinlein. I'd like to introduce my fellow trustee for the Heinlein Prize Trust, Art Dula.
My goodness, thank you all for coming here today. And this is the second award of the Heinlein Prize. And so I'm going to mention a few things about the Heinlein Trust to tell you what it is. I'm Mr. Heinlein's literary executor, as well as being a trustee. And the trust was started in 1991, but it didn't become active until 2003 when it was funded by the estate of Virginia Heinlein. It is the Robert A. and Virginia Heinlein Trust for accomplishments in commercial aerospace activities. Not for plans, not for books. We have Heinlein Prizes for plans and for books, but the big prize is for accomplishments. And you know, we gave the first award back in 2006 to Peter Diamandis. And since then, we've been searching for accomplishments. And I think we've really found some, and I'll introduce a little later, and you can tell them about what you're doing, Elon. I'd like to note that Elon is not only raising rockets, he's also raising children. I believe he has 5, and 2 of them are here today, Xavier and Griffin, and his lovely wife, Tallulah. I'd like to thank you for joining us here for this award. I think you should be very proud of your dad. Now, these are the fellas. They're going to ride these rockets when they go beyond Earth orbit, go to Mars. Good. Oh, my goodness. Well, we hope anyway. But I'm glad you could come with and be with us today. The trust doesn't do just the prize. The trust is also charged with the administration of Mr. Heinlein's literary legacy. And we do that through a series of prizes around the world that are called the Flight to the Future prizes that in a minute Dr. Chiao will tell you a little bit more about. But there's one for Asia and there's one for Europe. And we have with us today Hank Yoshida from Japan for Asia and Elena Piripokina from Europe. They came over to stand up for a minute. And we're also going to give you a book. It's this book. You can pick it up on the way out. And it's written by Yojo Kondo, who is also here with us today. He's the editor of this lovely volume of Requiem, which I must tell you, we got it inexpensively because we get a special deal with the publisher, so we're happy to share that with you. I'd like to note that the prize is partly funded by the copyright income from Mr. Heinlein's works, and partly funded by money that we have in the bank, and that money is in the bank, and it's in Beverly Hills, California, and it's under the control of Pat Sendrick, who is also here with his wife Dominique. And we have with us also Amy Baxter, who is the adopted granddaughter of Mr. Heinlein. Amy, would you stand up? And Amy's a pediatrician down in Atlanta. And so Heinlein's children have spread into medicine too. The trust took all of Mr. Heinlein's work that was in a special collection at the University of California at Santa Cruz. And for the really first time anybody's ever done it, we digitized every single one of the 300,000 pages and 45,000 photographs. I even found his second grade report card in this. And it's all available to you on the web now. It's all been archived electronically. It's in the Heinlein archives. We also are working with the Virginia Edition Publishing Company, Virginia Heinlein, Virginia Edition, to publish a 46-volume leather-bound set of all of Mr. Heinlein's works in a it costs about $1,500. There's a flyer for it on the table outside if you'd like to pick one up. But what I'd like to do now is turn the microphone over to Dr. Leroy Chiao, who was a commander of the United States Space Station, the International Space Station, and he helps us with our educational program. And I'll let him tell you about that, and then I'll get back up and get on with giving the prize.
Well, thank you, Art, and welcome everyone. I'd like to take just a moment to welcome our NASA friends for coming and thank them for coming today, including Deputy Administrator Lori Garver, Phil McAllister from the Commercial Crew Development Office, and Garvey McIntosh from the Office of External Relations. Welcome. Well, education is a very big and important part of the Heinlein Prize Trust, and we have many programs to support education and inspire young people to be interested in space and science. Among them, you heard Art talk about the Flight into the Future competitions, which are held in alternating years in Europe and in Asia. Young people, young professionals, and students are encouraged to form teams to come up with business proposals and business plans, basically, and they compete for cash prizes, and it's been very successful even in the short time that it's been around. We also have another program called the Have Spacesuit Will Travel program, which is based on one of Robert Heinlein's juvenile series books, one of his first and one of his best. I'd like to thank Don Thomas, a fellow astronaut with whom I flew my first mission, for being here and for helping to start the pilot program up in Baltimore. And he's very successfully, over the last 2 years, engaged several schools and gotten a lot of young people interested in Robert Heinlein and in spacesuits. So thank you, Don. I'd like to also mention a friend and colleague, another friend and colleague, John Clark, Dr. John Clark, who was my flight surgeon during my third shuttle mission, so a very important guy to me. He and I worked to do a little bit of work together at the National Space Biomedical Research Institute, and we are taking a version of the Have Spacesuit Will Travel and evolving it into a higher level. The work that Don has been doing has been with elementary level students, and we're bringing this into the Baylor College of Medicine to begin a program to augment a program, an elective program for medical students to get them interested in aerospace medicine and tell them about spacesuits and educate them on space physiology. So I'd like to welcome Dr. Clark as well. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Art to present the award.
I think that all of us have had dreams about doing things that we loved. I think all of us have aspirations, and it takes a special kind of person to accomplish the aspirations and to live the dream. And we have Elon with us today. He's born in, he was born in 1971. As a matter of fact, on June 28th. That means that he just turned 40, one of the great milestones of life. I mentioned to him that if he got this far without too much damage, he was probably okay for the next 25 or 30 years. He replied to me, I think I may take some damage. But Elon grew up in South Africa, and he left South Africa and came to Canada and worked on his mother's family's farm with his mother's family, mucking out silos, and then got a job working in a logging camp, which is about as hard a work as you can possibly do. He decided that there had to be something better than that. He went to the University of Pennsylvania and got a degree at Wharton School, I believe, in business and in physics. Right. Now, I can tell you that there aren't very many people that have degrees in business and in physics. And he went out to Stanford and stayed there for 2 days. Now, most people who go to Stanford stay longer than that, Elon. But he quit to form a business with his brother. Now, he formed a business. And this, if you're going to take and try to strike out on your own, it's a good thing to do. And he formed it, and it was sold, and he made money. By the way, I'm a law professor in my spare time. I advise all of my students to take and form a company. Even if you don't do anything with it, form it so you know how to form one. And go out, because you'll probably make more money that way than you will taking and just working for somebody else. And then he formed another company that turned into a company that moved money around on the internet, sold it to a company that sold everything under the sun called eBay, and then same year, 1999, I think, 98, 99?
2002.
Okay. Started Space Exploration Technologies. Now, if you've just made a whole pile of money, most of the time, you don't take and go out and try to start your own space program. This is unusual. But I have a feeling that he'd been thinking about it probably for a very long time, probably since he was old enough to read and appreciate space. And he took about as near as I can figure out, because in the trust we have to do due diligence, and the press has picked up that a lot of NASA money's gone into this business, and we had to say, well, is it NASA money or is it his money? I was shocked to find out it was almost entirely Elon's money. He put a great American fortune on the line to try to build a private orbital vehicle. And that, Falcon 1 flight, right, failing 3 times, getting to $90 million in expenses, and if it had failed the 4th time, I don't know if you would have been able to keep going. But taking that risk and then making the accomplishment of the first orbital flight that caused the development of the Falcon family of launch